What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Squanch. This is a very exciting special edition, special feature, special event where we have a guest, and not just any guest, not someone who's here to talk about the show Rick and Morty, someone who works on the damn show, friends. This is big for us because at Wisecrack we've spent, I don't want to know how many hours talking about the show, making videos about it, writing about it. And this is the first time we've gotten to talk to someone who's a part of it. So without further ado, Kari Wahlgren. Voice actor extraordinaire. I think most people who are big Rick and Morty heads would probably immediately know you as the voice of Jessica, but if I'm not mistaken, you are voicing lots of people on the show.
Yes. I started out just voicing Jessica, and then I came in for a session where they just had one line for Rick's spaceship. And so I was doing something, turn left at the next galaxy. And when we were kind of just messing around in between takes, I started kind of giving them a little bit of shade, like, turn left, you idiot. I did not tell you to go that direction, you dipwad, And so then they kind of started joking, like, wouldn't that be funny to do an episode where the car kind of like gets a little snarky? And so that's what triggered the Keep Summer Safe episode.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so after that, they started writing in Rick's spaceship into things, and I've gotten a chance to do all sorts of little incidentals on the show. So usually if you see an alien or, some sort of rando, I'm a red
just
shirt,
a rando,
I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. And we dived right into it, but just for anyone who only knows that, Kari, you have one of the most intimidating and comprehensive IMDb's I have ever seen. You obviously have done voices on Rick and Morty, but also a lot of things that I know at least our fans love, like Solar Opposites, Infinity Train, Kung Fu Panda, DuckTales. You've done a shocking amount of anime for a person from the Western world. Video games like Cyberpunk 2077. It truly seems like if there is any animated thing that has been made in the past decade or so, that you have been on it. So I'm pretty sure that we have all heard your voice and heard characters you're doing way more times than we even realize. So
thank you. So or I'm sorry, depending on,
listen,
the consensus.
No, we love it. And this is all thanks. So to get started, I'm just curious, so how'd you get into voiceover? Like, were you initially doing stage acting or on camera stuff in transition? Did you always want to do voiceover? I'm just kind of curious how you got into this specific field.
Yeah, for me it was kind of weird because I always loved cartoons. I mean, from the time I was a little kid, I would watch cartoons and I would act them out around the house and do all these different voices when I would read stories out loud. So apparently, when I was 5 or 6, I told my parents one day I'm going to be the voice of a Disney cartoon.
Oh, my God.
So for some reason, it was kind of on my radar that people were doing voices. And so, as I got older, I did a lot of theater, and but I was always like recording my voice onto cassette tapes. For, a lot of you kids out there are like, what's a tape?
No, it's cool again now though. So even the youth know.
Is it?
Yeah, it's like it's kind of
I'm retro.
It's what vinyl used to be, cassette tapes are now. So you are speaking across generations right now. The Gen Zs just said, "Oh, cool. She collects vintage cassette tapes as well."
Awesome. Oh yeah. Well, I was recording my voice and doing all these different voices on cassette tape, and then I started mailing them out to casting people.
Amazing.
I mean, I was a huge fan of Batman the Animated Series, and I think I was either junior high or right at the beginning of high school when that came out. And I would rush home and I would watch it, and Andrea Romano would always pop up in the credits as being the casting director and the voice director. So I actually went to a bookstore or something and I looked up the Warner Brothers address and I wrote her a letter. And I was like, I'm going to move to LA one day and be a voice actor. And I am looking forward to working with you one day. And I mean, who thinks about that, when they're like 14 or whatever. And so years later, when I first did Ben 10 for Cartoon Network, I played Charmcaster in a number of reboots of the show, and I walked in the first day and she was the director. I was like, oh! So yeah, so it was always kind of on my
Yeah.
radar, and when I moved out to LA, that was like one of the things I was really, really trying to do was on camera, but also
Hmm.
voiceover.
That's so cool. I love that story because it's one of those stories that like sounds like a fake story of someone finding their dreams in Hollywood, but it's real, and I think
Yeah.
that's like so just great. I find that incredible because occasionally you'll hear the story of someone who's like, I was a writer living in New Hampshire and I found the address for the showrunner and like I just sent them a script in the mail and then like I was out there years later and like I think that's amazing. So that's really cool.
It's
Um,
so bizarre. So
yeah.
bizarre.
So I guess jumping ahead a lot. And if I'm not incorrect thinking this, you've been a part of Rick and Morty basically from the get go, or pretty early on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think give him the what for, Morty. Just give him in there. And I think that was the pilot episode. So I think I remember it was in the pilot or it
Hmm.
was in the pitch thing that they sent to the network because I remember auditioning and there was something about the dream sequence for the Jessica lines. And so yeah, it was really early on that
And
they
yeah.
introduced her.
And is that how you got involved? Just a straight up audition? Had you worked with Dan or Justin before?
Yeah, it's funny. Justin and I did fish hooks for
Uh huh.
Disney together. So he played, I think, this fish called Milo, and I played Chelsea. It was this like really like puffer fish, and so we worked on that show together, and then we met one year at Comic-Con promoting the show, and I think he had fallen off a stage at a party, so his knees were all like bloodied or something. It was great. He was just so funny, and so we kind of struck up a friendship and everything, and then he made sure that my agent, I guess, got the audition sides for this weird little pilot that he was putting
Yeah.
together called Rick and Morty, and he's like, "Oh, I want Kari to read for this Jessica part," and the rest is history.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So like with Rick and Morty, and I don't know a ton about how voiceover stuff works, but I do know, I've heard from folks before who record their parts like isolated. So not, a lot of times when people are regular acting, there's that idea that you are interacting with another human, you're kind of feeding off their emotions, their physicality, all these sorts of things. And I know often in voiceover, it might just be, and I imagine it often is, you in a booth with a microphone. So like as an actor, I mean, I'm curious how you do things in Rick and Morty. Are you all ever together? Is it pretty solo? And then what is that like? Like what are the skills or what sort of do you access in your like actor's toolkit to be able to express emotion and react to things when you're not talking to that character in that moment? If that makes sense. Sorry if that was too convoluted, but
A- Absolutely no, and they're great questions. It used to be that you had mentioned anime,
mm-hmm.
and that was what I first started doing after I got to LA. I just kind of answered an audition ad, and I got a part in FLCL, which is kind of this really niche anime show. And so I started doing a lot of anime first, and with that, you have the pre-existing picture in front of you, and you sync
Mm-hmm.
everything up to picture, and so you're recording alone. And then when I started getting into Western animation or original animation, um, uh, they would try to get the cast together to record it. But as the years went by, it would get harder and harder to do that, especially the more celebrity casting that they
Mm-hmm.
were doing, because then you're just kind of trying to work around too many people's schedules. So with Rick and Morty, along with a lot of other shows, sometimes they'd get us with one or two other people in the studio, but most of the time it's just me in there by myself. And for a number of seasons, Justin would be
Mm-hmm.
directing in the other room, or one of the other directors would come in. So it is a very solitary thing,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they'll have the storyboards so that you at least have an idea of, okay, so then the alien comes down and he puts this in his mouth, and I'm trying to keep it somewhat PG-13.
No, it's fine. Yeah. That's wild,
So
yeah.
so they would like walk us through, okay, so here in the storyboard, you can see that she's like across the field when she says
Mm-hmm.
this. So you actually need to make the line a lot louder because she's that far away. Or,
Yeah.
you might see in the storyboard that she's right up next to his face. So I'm watching you. It'd be like that close. So the storyboards can be really
Mm-hmm.
helpful if you're recording by yourself, or just having somebody that really knows how they plan to visualize it in the
Mm-hmm.
end. Because for me, when I have to record by myself, that's how I do things, is that I always picture, okay, how is this going to turn out in the end? You know, if there's a fight and you get punched, I'll ask a question like, okay, so does the alien punch her in the face or the stomach? Because if
Ah.
it's in the face, it might be like, ow! And if it's in the stomach, it would be, ooh! Like, every tiny little thing like that is going to make a difference with how they eventually animate the show. So as long as
Yeah.
somebody is there that knows how it's all going to come together, then I can kind of use my imagination to
Yeah.
fill in the blanks.
But that's like really cool to hear, because I think often one might not assume there's like that level of physicality to voice acting. So I'm so glad you even gave us that
Yeah.
example, because now I'm going to think about that more. And then when you're doing it as well, is there often like a director, or producer, or someone who's like reading the lines back to you, or are you literally just doing your chunks? In
You
terms of
know,
like if you're in a scene, or is someone else playing the other person?
yeah, and that's a great question. They'll give you the option a lot
Mm-hmm.
of times, because some people work better if somebody feeds them the line beforehand and kind of reads with them. A lot of times I just like to kind of go at my own speed, because, sometimes, especially if we've been doing it all over Zoom and stuff like that the
Mm-hmm.
last year and a half
Yeah.
and stuff. So there's a delay and stuff like that. So I'd rather just kind of read the other characters in my head and respond to
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Oh, that's cool.
But, they're always like, hey, do you want me to read in with you? And sometimes I'll be like, yeah,
Yeah.
so you have the option.
I have a question that's like slightly spicy. So you can either A, not answer this, or
Oh,
B, if you answer it and then you don't feel good about it, we can cut it. But I'm curious about this. And you kind of mentioned this briefly. There seems to have been a shift in recent years, especially, where a lot more, I guess, like live film and television actors have been doing more and more voiceover. And there's kind of been a parallel thing in commercial acting, where a lot of commercial actors used to do commercials, and now increasingly probably 50% of national spots are like actors who do a bunch of other stuff. And I know I'll just speak to I know people in the commercial acting community who sometimes are a little bit like, Jesus Christ, like, stay in your lane, let us pay our rent. Is there like any beef or bitterness in the voice acting world that it's sort of like, even hearing you talk about how you do it, like that this is an art form, a thing we do, and now it's like George Clooney just gets to drop in and do this for the day, let us do our thing. Like, is that like a thing? Is there
yeah.
tension there? Is there sometimes bitterness? I don't know. It's art that's too spicy.
Okay. Is there bitterness in the VO community? Yes, absolutely. There are certain people that you will talk to that will gripe about it all day long. And it does affect things. Like it
Mm-hmm.
affects how much you book, that sort of thing. I guess I'm a little. I mean,
Yeah,
first
of
of all, it
course.
is the way it is. So I don't think it really helps a lot to be too bitter about it. So my thinking on it is this. Okay. The plus side of it is that if you get a name attached to something,
Mm-hmm.
it gets made so much faster. So, you can have Brad Pitt say, I'll do the lead on your animated film. And that animated film will get made like that. And it's going to employ a whole
Yeah.
list of other voiceover people. Because here's the thing is that the really good VO people do a ton of different stuff. And what I find a lot of the clients quickly realize is, first of all, we have a limited number of contracts. So we can't hire 6 people, like 6 different people to do these little itty bitty parts. We need to hire 1 or 2 people that can do 6 different characters. So somebody who's, a voice actor that is just really good at what they do
Mm-hmm.
is going to pick up those jobs. Here's the other thing is that a lot of times what happens is clients will cast a celebrity And the celebrity is not available a lot, or B,
Mm-hmm.
they're not very good. And so there are voice actors I know that are masters of impressions. So the final product, a lot of times, is not
Yeah.
that celebrity. It's a portion of that celebrity, and then it's a voice match doing a lot of lines. So I guess I just feel like in the end, if more content gets made, the people that are good at what they do are gonna get work. And sure, sometimes it's frustrating that you're not gonna get the lead role or something. But I don't know. I guess
Yeah.
I just have that attitude that if you're good, you'll
To be
just keep
clear,
getting
that's such a
employed.
healthy attitude to have. And
So
especially, I think, what you said is kind of tapping into that rising tides lift all ships things that, like, yeah, maybe it's annoying that you, I don't know, are mad that Danny DeVito got the lead instead of you. But if it gets the thing made, Danny DeVito is a weird choice, but I like him a lot, so I'm going to stick
yeah,
with it. But yeah, like that's a ton of jobs for,
yeah.
not only voice actors, but animators. So that's a healthy attitude. Hopefully, if any bitter VO people listen to this, they're like, you know what? Kari's advice is right. That's true. I'm going to reorient myself and keep my eyes on my own paper and just enjoy the work as it comes. Um, yeah,
And some people that get really frustrated about it, they go and they create
which
their
is
own
great.
content so that they can call
Yeah.
their own shots. So that's great too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like it
Well,
works
thank you
out
for
in the
letting me
end.
indulge that question there. To circle
Yeah.
back a little bit to Rick and Morty, um, question for you. So,
Okay.
and I promise you, I'm not bullshitting here. We recorded the episode I'm going to refer to before we ever knew you were going to be able to come on. But something we talked about on this podcast, we did like a season preview episode, and we are talking about like what would we love to see, what things do we want from the season, and we all agreed we were like A, more Jessica, and B, one thing we talked
Oh my
about is how
gosh.
our dream episode of Rick and Morty would be one from the perspective of Jessica. So we move away from the Smith and Sanchez's and like literally almost see the world through her eyes. We got like a glimpse of that this season when Jessica slash you become a time god. And I still think that was probably my favorite moment of the current season because it was just great. And I think we liked it too that
Oh my
yeah,
God.
and just to see that character. I
So
mean, the
good.
great thing about that character too is obviously there's that risk when it's the female character that's the object of affection of the male, and we all know there's so many poorly written characters in that mold, right? And I think it's been great to like see Jessica as more than that, throughout the show, but especially this season, that was just amazing. So I kind of wonder, like, what is your relationship with that character? And I mean, this one you probably can't say anything, but if you can, is there anything interesting to come? Like, should we be looking forward to more like cool Jessica storylines? I mean, we don't want to get you in trouble, but you can at least start with if you can at least talk about this, like, what's it like playing that character?
Right.
How have you seen the character evolve? And you mentioned before when you were talking about doing the voice for the spaceship, how you doing some improvisation leads to storylines and stuff. So along with like what is your relationship
Yeah.
with the Jessica character, have there been instances where you have improvised or pitched ideas that have led to the fleshing out of that character?
Yeah, well, definitely the Rick spaceship story is the
Mm-hmm.
clearest example that I can give of, doing something in a session that actually led to a one
Mm-hmm.
or two line part, turning into this huge character, recurring character. I can't show it to you right here, but I've got a Rick's ship Funko Pop on my shelf back
Nice.
there in my studio. So, who knew? With Jessica, I have loved every time that they have had a little episode where we just get a
Yes.
little bit more of her personality. I'm trying to remember if it was Rick Mansing the Stone or Rest and
Mm-hmm.
Relaxation or something, and she kind of gets this little banter going
Yeah.
with Rick, and and I loved that. And so when when the Time God episode came up, I was like, finally, we get to just dive in a little bit deeper because in some ways she's just meant to
Yeah.
be the sweet gal. Um, and this was so much fun to get to see a little bit of a separate side of her. I would love to see more of
Agreed.
that. Uh, I uh, and by the way, whenever we talk about Rick and Morty on anything, there's an assassin with like a blow dart that follows me
Oh,
around, and
yeah.
if I say anything about upcoming episodes, it's like you
Yeah.
know. So I literally cannot say anything about
I was
future
gonna ask why
episodes
there was
at all.
that dart in the wall behind you. It's off camera now, but
That
yeah, I was like,
shadow,
this is weird.
it's just
People are
right
into
over
their own
there.
things, but
Yeah,
that's totally understandable. I wouldn't be doing our
yeah.
fan service if I didn't try to trick you into, voiding your contract, leaking something, and ruining your career. But know that for
Right.
that episode, the Time God episode, we were all so psyched about that. Our listeners, and I'll brag. We have a lot of people that listen to this that love the show. They were excited. We had so many emails where people were just like, yes, we love this. We want more of this. So, there's a lot of us out there who would love to see some more of that. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Please speak up. Speak
Yeah.
up, social media,
Um,
any of that sort of thing, because I would love to
yeah.
dive deeper
Um,
with
Now I'm going to
Jessica.
pivot wildly here. So, obviously, we know
Ooh, okay.
that you are just an incredibly accomplished voice actor. That's just like objectively true. If someone tried to argue against that, they just look stupid at this point. What I did not know until recently is that you are also a musician, singer, and in particular that you and has the project come out yet, or is it about to come out? The
It's about to come out. We did an
Yes.
album. Um, so the project is called SlaughtHER, and how this whole thing came about was I love the late 80s, early 90s hair band Slaughter. Flight of the Angels, Up All Night, some of those songs that
Yeah.
if you guys kind of look them up, you'd be like, oh, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think I hear those on Memorial Day weekend every year, that sort of thing. So I love this band. And so I got it in my head, oh my God, it'd be so fun to do like an all girl tribute night. But every time I was thinking about the songs, I was like, but I'm imagining a jazz version of this song, or I'm imagining kind of like more of a metal version of this song. So basically, what we did is we just did a night of Slaughter songs in all different genres of music. We had jazz, pop, rock, classical. And so we started doing these live shows in LA, and they were really popular. We were selling out the venue and everything. And then COVID hit, so I was like, well, I've got all this time. Maybe I'll just flesh it out and turn it into an album. So I put together this SlaughtHER album, and the pre-sales actually for it start
Amazing.
tomorrow. And we dropped the first
Mm-hmm.
single with a music video about a month ago. So you guys can look up "Mad About You"
Which is
on my
has nothing to
website,
do with Paul Reiser and
kariwahlgren.com.
and Helen Hunt. So if you're looking
Helen Hunt,
for
no.
great '90s Helen Hunt, Paul Reiser, married in New York and childish content, you're not gonna get it. You are gonna get what I thought was such a cool
Yeah.
music video. And once again, I just wouldn't say this if I didn't think it was true because we have plenty of stuff to talk about and limited time. Um, but I think everyone should go check that out. I mean, were you involved in like directing that and sort of conceptualizing what was going to happen in that video? Because it's a lot's going on. It's visually just like so full on.
Oh,
Well,
thank
a lot of
you. Oh my
we're in an
God.
era where a lot of music videos aren't that good or seem like they don't have an emphasis put into having any sort of like little narrative you can follow. But like the sets, the outfits, it was it
Yes.
was just it wasn't what I was expecting in the best way possible. So, I mean, is
Oh,
this kind of your creative vision in that as well? Is there a team you work with on this? How did this come to be?
yeah. Well, um, I have such a dark streak. I don't know where that comes from, but so so the vision for the story of the music video and the look of it was absolutely mine. And I have a great friend of mine, Ben Giroux, who's just an incredible director. And we had done a music video for another SlaughtHER song like a year and a half ago or something like that. So I came to him with this idea, and I was like, man, I just want to do this this thing where it opens up and it looks like this really bright and cheerful, either
Mm-hmm.
anime little garden tea party or like an Alice in Wonderland vibe. And then I just want it to get really dark and distorted and just weird. And I want like weird, like, kind of the Ring sort of, weirdness to it. And I just want it to get really dark and
You
disturbed
did it.
as the song.
No, like
Thank
if for
you.
anyone who's listening right now, look up this video and you'll be like, "Oh, she described exactly what happened in the beats of that video." And that's literally my
Yeah.
first thought was like, "Oh, this is kind of like a little anime, but no, kind of like Alice in Wonderland." Then it was like, "Oh, I think this is about to get dark. This is getting dark."
I gotta show you what I feel in my heart. 'Cause I knew it right from the start that I'm never about you. I go crazy with all of the things that you do. I'm never about you. I'm so angry inside and it's all over you.
It's getting dark.
And what's that like too? Just like from doing so much work that I imagine is like you alone in a room with a microphone to being in front of the camera on a set making a music video. Is that like, is it just exciting and new and different? Is there any like nervousness about like being on the other side of things?
It's so weird because when I first moved out to LA, I was thinking I wanted to kind of do on camera
Mhm.
and voiceover, but things kind of worked out that primarily what I do is voiceover. I've done some on
Mhm.
camera here and there. I've done commercials, I've done Criminal Minds and Wizards
Mhm.
of Waverly Place, but it's kind of more sprinkled
Yeah.
in among the voiceovers. So it's always kind of fun for me and kind of strange, like, oh, I'm getting in front of the camera. And but Ben, I mean, I just have to give him a shout out again. He and his crew, his team, have worked together a lot. And they're so good, from building the
Mhm.
sets to really showing you, okay, this is how tight we're going to go in on your face right here. You're just going to see the mouth, this sort of thing. So it was just such a great collaborative process. And we put it together kind of right when things were starting to kind of
Mhm.
open up again with COVID. And so we're so strict about protocols. Everybody got tested right before the shoot,
great.
and it was done super safely. And it was just great because it was fun to work together as a team on something and be in the same room together and just kind of bring this weird vision to life. So yeah,
Yeah.
but it's strange because you're reminded of like, oh, now people are going to see me think,
Yeah.
rather than just
Well,
hear
and
me
I'm really
think.
glad
So
to know that the guy that gets gagged, spoiler, was tested for COVID before, because I just wanted to make sure he was safe. I know he's not doing so well, in some ways, but I'm glad there was no COVID, and I'm so
yeah,
glad you got to get that made before our summer got less fun. Um, yeah,
right.
sorry to be a bummer,
Oh
everyone. If you're listening to
man,
this and you're not in the States, you're maybe
wah,
lucky. We're having a
wah.
fun little Delta frequent flyer experience, especially in Los Angeles. That sucks. So
Yeah, little
yeah, so
resurgence.
once things
Ugh.
get a little more mellow, can we expect some more SlaughtHER shows where people could go check this out?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
fingers crossed. You know, next year we're kind of keeping our fingers crossed that we'll be able to start performing live again next year. But for now, the album is coming out officially. It's going to drop everywhere on August
Okay.
27th. So iTunes, Spotify, anywhere that there's streaming.
So the album, August 27th, the album's coming out. It'll be everywhere. And I'll just say,
Yes.
like, if people like it and you find yourself listening to it on Spotify a lot, you could also just buy it, which is so cool to do to support people that make fun art. You're not saying that. I'm saying it, because, just Google how much Spotify is paying artists, and then you'll be like, oh, that sucks. I want to give them more money. And I assume
Yeah.
if you do some shows early next year, our Southern California based audience will be able to see those. Have you mostly just done LA stuff thus far? Are you going to take the show on the road at some point?
Yeah, this far it's
Uh-huh.
been LA, and we were in talks to take it to a couple of places outside of LA, and then COVID hit, so that kind of ruined that for a little bit of time, but it's pretty cool. And I guess the one thing I would say is that if you guys end up wanting to, like, we're gonna do CDs. I know CDs are kind of ancient, but we'll sign them and stuff like that. So we're doing like pre-sales for like bundles. It'll come with a signed postcard, a CD, a sticker, I think maybe a shirt. I have to double check. But a portion of all the proceeds, whether you buy it in a physical form or if you just get any of the songs downloaded, a portion of all the proceeds are going to go to donorschoose.org, which is my favorite charity, and it supports projects that public school teachers post that they need in their classroom. And so all the shows that we were doing live up to this point were fundraisers for them. So we would buy, if there was an orchestra in Louisiana that needed strings for their cellos, we'd buy those cello strings. If there was a music class that needed, little recorders, or we've bought ukuleles for at least 2 or 3 classrooms. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, so
like there's truly no.
Yeah, it's really fun.
We can give voice actors second place in this list, but there's no more honorable profession than teaching, especially teaching at a public school. To be able to do that, I am not a big deal. I'm announcing this for the first time, running for president next time, and my whole platform will just be all teachers get paid 6-figure starting salaries and get paid beach vacations every year, or mountain vacations if they're more of a snow type.
Yeah.
But no, that's truly incredible.
There's so much work.
For any of us, on our team, some of us have been teachers before because our content is kind of educational. We have a lot of teachers who are fans and reach out to us. We hear stories all the time of people that are truly busting their asses to do everything they can to like help young people be creative, curious, smart, fun people. And they often get compensated and treated like crap. And like you said, have to use their, most teachers end up using their own money to do things for their kids. They shouldn't have to do that. And it's incredible that one can listen to this music and be helping teachers at the same time. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
Absolutely. And I will say, any Rick and Morty fans out there that happen to be teachers, both of my parents used to be teachers. They're retired now. So that's kind of one of the reasons that I love this organization so much. But if there are any fans out there that are teachers, please tag me on social media if you have projects that need to get funded, because I really do try to do that as much as I can. So
Amazing.
I'm at Kari Wahlgren on Twitter and Instagram and all that good stuff. So send your projects. Let me help your classroom.
That's amazing. And I was just about to ask you, so if people want to follow your work and what you're doing, so is at just Kari Wahlgren, straight up your name, is that the best place to go? Or are there any other places you want to point people on the internet where they can find more about you and your work and stuff you're up to?
Yeah. Twitter and Instagram, it's at Kari Wahlgren. I just started on TikTok, so I'm still figuring out the ropes, but I'm at Real Kari Wahlgren on TikTok. And then I've got a Facebook official page that's under my name too. Got a website, kariwahlgren.com. Basically, you can find me. And I do love hearing from people that it's kind of funny because we talk a lot about how you just go into a room and record by yourself. So you don't hear how anything you do affects people. You just kind of record your thing and then you walk away from it. So it's stuff like this, or when people reach out to you on social media and actually say, hey, I love this show or something, that you're like, oh, wow, people actually dig what I did. So it's nice.
Yeah,
I love
and definitely, from our perspective over here at Wisecrack, Rick and Morty in particular has given us a chance to talk about so many cool things. And even this season, like, we've made a video about, with the Planetina episode, talking about climate change and politics and how we think about environmental stuff. We've talked about history and our relationship to national myths. Like, the show has given us a really cool excuse to talk about, everything from philosophy to history to the environment. And it's opened up some cool spaces for us to have those conversations with our fans and use a very fun, dark, funny show to learn about stuff. So thank you so much for being a part of that, because it's a show that means a lot to us, means a lot to our fans. And it's really, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. It means a lot.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. We would not be doing more episodes if you guys hadn't supported us. So
we'll keep it up. So all there's to say now is Kari Wahlgren, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. Please, everyone, look her up on social media. Tell her how great her work is. Don't be a creep, though. No creeps. We don't want creeps. No creeps.
Creepers.
If you're like, I'm ready to creep,
No creeps.
stop it. And then definitely check out SlaughtHER, which is, it's spelled kind of like how it sounds. We SLAUGHT HER SlaughtHER. Check out the Mad About You music video, and after that, maybe go watch some reruns of Mad About You, because it's really a delightful sitcom that never got enough.
It's a delightful show.
Underrated.
Paul Reiser is
Yes.
a delight.
So we'll end on that note. I wanted to make sure we ended with praising Paul Reiser. So we'll end on that note.
Right.
Thank you so much, Kari. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening, and we'll check you guys out soon.